Okay, we should be on page 181 in our books. All right, now in example 1, it gives us a kayaking example. It says that Julie kayaks 7/10 of a mile, and Seth kayaks 3/4 of a mile. And it wants to know, they want us to tell who kayaked the greater distance. But as the fractions are right now, they don't have the same denominator. So it's like comparing things with that are different sizes, okay? So first we have to find a common denominator. Well, how do you do that? There is kind of a process that you can go through. Some of you could just look at that and say, oh, well, my LCD is blank, okay? But if you have a hard time figuring out the LCD, start with your largest denominator. What's your largest denominator here?
10.
It's 10. And start listing your multiples. Well, does 4 go into 10? No. Okay, now what's the next multiple of 10? 20. Does 4 go into 20? Yes. Okay, so as soon as you can answer that question with yes, you know that you found your LCD. So your LCD here is going to be 20. All right, now you need to create your equivalent fraction. So 10 times what equals 20?
2.
10 times 2 equals 20. And then 7 times 2 equals what?
14.
14. All right, and then 4 times what equals 20?
5.
5. So 3 times 5 equals 15. Now that you're comparing fractions with the same denominator, you can say that who kayaked the greater distance? Seth. So you would put a less than sign there, and basically you would answer it Seth did. Okay, and Seth, in this case, since they were asking who kayaked the greater distance, Seth would be your answer, and you would say that 15 over 20 is greater than 14 over 20.
So the less than.
Okay, now in example 2, this is more along the lines of what you would see, you'll see on your homework assignment. You have 3 problems just like this one on your homework tonight. So if you get to your homework and you're struggling, just go back and watch this video, okay? All right, so ordering fractions on example 2. It gives me the fractions 2/3, 3/8, 1/6, and 3/4. And it wants me to order them least to greatest, okay? Least to greatest. But can I just say 1/6 is the smallest because 1's on top? No. Okay, what do I need to do first? Hazen? You need to find the lowest common denominator, the least common denominator, okay? So how do you do that? You start with the biggest number in your denominator, 8. And you ask yourself, does 3 go into 8? No, it doesn't, okay? So the next multiple of 8 is what? 16. Does 3 go into 16? No. Okay? So 16 is out. And you don't have to write that over in the margin. That might just help you. All right, what's the next multiple? 24. Well, does 3 go into 24?
Yes.
Does 6 go into 24?
Yes.
Does 4 go into 24?
Yes.
So there's my LCD. Okay, like I said, you don't have to write that, but mentally that's what we're doing, okay? So now that we found our LCD is 24, we're going to go ahead and write it as our common denominator underneath each fraction. Now you ask yourself, 3 times what number equals 24? 8. So you would multiply top and bottom of that fraction by 8 to create your equivalent fraction. So 2 times 8 is 16. All right, 8 times what equals 24? 3. So 8 times 3 and 3 times 3. So that would be 9 over 24. 6 times what equals 24? 4. So 1 times 4 is 4. And 4 times what equals 24? 6. So 3 times 6 is 18. Now, that part you do need to show on your homework tonight, what you're multiplying top and bottom by to get to your common denominator. Now that all of your fractions are of equal size, meaning they all have the same denominator, now you can look at their numerators and tell me that which one is the smallest one. 4 over 24. Now, in your answer, though, you need to write it in its original format. So 4 over 24 is the smallest, and you would write it as what? 1/6. What's the next smallest fraction? What's the next smallest one? 9 over 24, which in its original form is what? 3/8. What's the next smallest fraction? 16 over 24, which is 2/3. I'm glad Alicia knows. Anybody else? Okay. And then what's the biggest one?
18 over
Okay, which is what? 3/4. And that's what you would box as your final answer. Okay? So there's a couple steps here. The first one is to find your LCD, then create all of your equivalent fractions, and then you can compare them and write them back in their original format. Okay, so that's everything you need to know for 4.5. Now we're going to shift over to 4.6, and we're going to talk about mixed numbers and improper fractions. So now we are on page 185. Page 185. Okay, so in example 1, we're writing improper fractions. We're given the mixed number 3 5/6. Now, if you learned a certain way to convert these in elementary school and you want to use that way, that's perfectly fine, okay? I'll show you the way that I do it, and if you have a different way, that's fine too. So to convert a mixed number to an improper fraction, you multiply the whole number times the denominator. 3 times 6 is what?
18.
18. And then you add the parts in the numerator. 18 plus 5 is? 23. And you keep the same denominator. And that's how you would write an improper fraction. Okay, so here's another one. 2 3/8. Okay, as an improper fraction. 2 3/8 as an improper fraction. So again, I do 2 times 8 is?
16.
16 plus 3.
19.
And I'm going to keep my same denominator, so it's 19 over 8. Okay, 19 over 8. All right, now I want you to turn to page 186 under your turn now, and I want you to do numbers 1 through 4 on your own. All right, raise your hand if your answers look like that. Raise your hand. All right, very good. Very good. Okay, so that's how we would write an improper fraction. Now let's look at example 2. In example 2, we're going the other way. We're taking an improper fraction and we're writing it as a mixed number. So if we had 23 over 6, the question you need to ask yourself, now remember, this is the same thing as saying 23 divided by 6. How many times, and if you need to write it like long division way, that's fine too. Or if you can do it in your head, that's fine too. Okay? How many times does 6 go into 23 without going over? 3. Okay? So that's going to be your whole number for your mixed number. But remember, it cannot go over. So 6 goes into 23 3 times, and then you ask yourself how many are left over. All right? Now, you can do this mentally, but if you're having a hard time with it, you could say 6 times 3 is what? 18. And 23 minus 18 is what? 5. And that's how many are left. So if you're having a hard time with it, that's how you can figure it out. Do you have to show that on your homework? No. Okay, you can just do it in your head. But if it helps you, that's the step that you need to take. Okay, if you're having a hard time figuring how many are left over. All right, so that would be 3 and 5, 6. Now I want you to go ahead and do numbers 5 through 8 under your turn now on page 186. All right, do your answers match? Yeah. Did you get all these right? Okay. All right, very good. Okay, now moving on to example 3. In example 3, it gives us the fractions. Now we're going back to the comparing and ordering, okay, in examples 3 and 4. It gives us the fraction 17 over 6 and 2 1/4. Now, technically, you could convert to a mixed number, both to a mixed number, or convert both of them to an improper fraction. Now, converting to an improper fraction leaves less room for you to make a mistake. So I would encourage you, and let's just all kind of stay on the same page. Let's go ahead, and whenever we're comparing improper and mixed fractions, let's go ahead and just write them as improper fractions. All right, so since we're going to do that, we need to convert 2 1/4 to an improper fraction. What will it be?
9/4.
It'll be 9/4, 9/4. Now, can we compare them as it is and say 17 is bigger? Can we? Think back to what we just learned. No, we can't. Why?
Because they don't have the same.
Because their denominators are different. Very good. Okay, so we go through our list of multiples. Can 4 go into 6? No. Can 4 go into 12? Yes. So 12 is our LCD. Now remember, you don't have to write the multiples on the side unless it helps you, but 12 is going to be our LCD. Okay, for both. Now you go back to the fractions and you say 6 times what number equals 12? 2, and you multiply the top by the same number. 17 times 2 is 34. Now 4 times what equals 12? 3. So 9 times 3 is 27. All right, now we're comparing 34 over 12 to 27 over 12, and which one's bigger?
27.
This one's bigger. So your final answer, though, remember, is in original form. So you would write it back in its original form. 17 over 6 is greater than 2 1/4. Okay? So just make sure that you do that on your homework tonight. For these problems, make sure that your final answer is the original format. 17 over 6 is greater than 2 1/4. All right, any questions? Okay. Now in example 4, we're ordering fractions. These are going to be mixed numbers and improper fractions. We have 3 5/8. We have 3, 17 over 4, and 3 1/2. All right, now we're going to use our same rule of thumb that we're going to go ahead and convert all mixed numbers to improper fractions. So 3 5/8 becomes, class? 29 over 8. 3 becomes 3 over 1. 17 over 4 stays the same. And 3 1/2 becomes 7 over 2. Now can I compare them? Why? Because I don't have the same denominator. So what number am I going to start with to compare them?
8.
I'm going to start with the number 8 because that's my biggest denominator. And I'm going to ask myself, does 1 go into 8?
Yes.
Does 4 go into 8?
Yes.
Does 2 go into 8?
Yes.
So 8 is my LCD. Now you don't have to draw all those arrows, but that's just what you're doing in your head mentally. Okay, so 29 over 8 I can keep the same. Now I ask myself to get to my common denominator. Go ahead and write it as your common denominator. 1 times what equals 8?
8.
Okay, good job. Yay, you're so smart. Okay, just kidding. All right, now 3 times 8 is, class? 24. 4 times what equals 8? 2. 17 times 2 is?
34.
Good job. 2 times what equals 8? 4. So 7 times 4 is? 28. Okay, so now I'm comparing fractions that are the same size because they all have the same denominator. So which one is smallest?
24 over 8. 3 over 1.
24 over 8, but in its original form it's what?
3 over 1.
3. Just 3. So remember, whenever you're writing them, least to greatest for your answer, you must write it in the original format. So we have 3 is the smallest, and then what? Then what? Guys?
28.
Then
28 over 8.
7 over 2.
3 1/2. Very good. 28 over 8, which is 3 1/2. Then what?
29 over 8.
29 over 8, which is 3 5/8. Then 17 over 4. And that's what you would box in as your final answer. Okay? And if you understand that, that's everything you need to know for 4.5 and 4.6.